Marvelous Halloween, fiends and loathed ones, how are you today? I've said it before and I'll say it again, I love Halloween. It is one of my favorite times of the entire year, especially when it comes to my channel. I have so much fun with Halloween that I often have trouble narrowing down exactly which game I want to talk about for this season. So, this year, I'm doing a special trick and treat special where I'll be covering not one, but 2 games in 2 videos. Let's get started. Back at the very start of 2020, a lot of YouTubers were making videos on their top 10 games of the decade. Their favorite video game experiences from 2010 to 2019. And while I personally didn't want to do one of those videos myself, I did sit down and think about some of the games that would have been on it. And there was one game in particular that my mind just kept going back to. One game that I played towards the start of the decade. One game that you already know what it is because I doubt you clicked on this video without knowing what the subject was. And that game is Ghost Trick Phantom Detective for the Nintendo DS. Though I should warn you all in advance, I'm pulling a Shin Megami Tensei 1 on this, and all the footage you see of this game is actually taken from the iOS port. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective was a DS game created by Shu Takumi, and if you're wondering where you know that name from, he also created the Ace Attorney series. For those of you that don't know, Ace Attorney is my favorite video game series of all time, so a new experience from the same creator was immediately appealing to me. In Ghost Trick, you start out by waking up and discovering you're dead. And unfortunately for you, ghosts tend to not remember stuff very well. I mean, you're able to piece together that you're this dead person. That makes sense, right? No one else around here is dead. But your name, why you're here, who killed you, these are all things you're gonna have to figure out over the course of the story. Though I will go ahead and spoil now that your name is Sissel, if only because that makes things easier to talk about. At this wacky junkyard, it's not just you who bit the dust, but an assassin is here to take care of this detective lady, who is Exhibit A that Shu Takumi has a thing for cute redheads that wear yellow. Who doesn't? But thanks to a helpful Pixar lamp named Ray, Sissel is able to learn about some of his special abilities, and most importantly, Ray tells him that come sunrise, Sissel will cease to exist. So you have to investigate every lead you have to solve this mystery before dawn. To do this, you have 2 main abilities in Ghost Trick, Ghost and Trick. When you hit the Ghost button, time freezes in the real world, and reveals Sissel's form as this blue flame. Using a ghost arm with a rather limited reach, you're able to jump around between an object's core and possess it. Which objects do or do not have cores doesn't seem to follow any consistent rules, but whatever. Once you're inside an object, you can use Trick, which allows you to ever so slightly manipulate an object to get it to do stuff. Most of these do about what you'd expect. If you're inside a light, you'll be able to turn it on or off. If you're inside an umbrella, you'll be able to open or close it. If you're inside a bazooka, well, you can't mess around with everything, I'm afraid. And if you take control of a corpse of someone that has died within 24 hours, that's where the real fun of Ghost Trick begins. You have the power to travel back in time 4 minutes before that person's death. This is a really cool mechanic, and it lends itself super well to the story. You have to carefully watch the last moments of their life, and while doing so, hopefully pick up on a few clues for things you'll be able to do to stop it. Like, this girl almost dropped her headphones into the fish tank, but at the last moment, she didn't. Well, what if we made it so that she did? Making small changes can often lead to being able to make bigger ones, and the fact is, sometimes you just won't be able to do anything until the scene itself plays out a bit more. It's an incredibly weird mix of needing to act quickly, but also be able to play the waiting game. There are a few moments where preventing the death literally comes down to the final seconds, and it's an incredibly tense, but ultimately satisfying experience. There are a few instances where you have to get into a certain object with perfect timing, and it can be a little frustrating when you freeze time a fraction of a second too late and basically have to start from the last checkpoint. But you're always free to make as many attempts as you like, so even if you lose, you'll hopefully have learned something you can do on your next run. There are a couple of sections in different chapters where you just have to use your ghost tricks to get around and achieve a certain objective without the restriction of being on a time limit. These ones are a lot less about reaction and more about solid puzzle solving, and I kinda wish the game had a few more of these. But overall, I love how much Ghost Trick was able to get out of its fairly simple mechanical ideas. Eventually, you do gain access to a second type of ghost power where you can swap the physical positions of two different objects so long as those objects share the same shape. But this comes late in the game, like chapter 14 out of 18 late. Over the course of this one night, Sissel is gonna get dragged into a giant conspiracy involving foreign espionage, kidnapping, blackmail, murder, and puppies! Specifically this one puppy named Missile. He's a Pomeranian. He is also, like, one of the best characters in this game. He's chipper, upbeat, adorable, and really is just 100% absolutely a dog. If dogs talked, this is how they'd talk. Missile is actually one of the first lives you save in this game, which also does a really nice job of hammering home just how evil these shadowy figures are. Because they shoot adorable Pomeranians. I also want to mention that Missile the Pomeranian was based on Shu Takami's real-life dog, who got his name from the dog in Ace Attorney, who was also named Missile, and sadly the real-life Missile passed away back in 2018. You know what? I take it back. I didn't want to mention any of that. I just knew that if I didn't, someone in the comments would tell me I forgot to talk about it. While it does feel great saving the lives of so many people, it can get a little exhausting. Lynn alone dies like 5 times in this game. I can't help but feel like some of these deaths could have been prevented without ghostly interference, and I don't blame Sissel for being a bit fed up with this. There's one chapter where she literally gets killed in a room by herself.
What was the point of all that? All it does is shoot you!
If I had to describe the visuals in Ghost Trick with only one word, it'd be stylish. But luckily, I'm a YouTuber who writes his own scripts, so I don't have to only use one word. I am gonna use 3. Stylish as f***. This game is such a visual treat. The character models have such fluid animations. I mean, just look at the way Inspector Cabanela, who, by the way, would totally be played by Bruce Campbell in a live-action adaptation, dances down the stairs. Just try telling me this isn't gorgeous. If I tried doing that, I would break everything. And it's not just him. Nearly every character in this game has some fantastic movements, and it's just a blast seeing what they're gonna do next. Stuff like the over-the-top panic attacks of the Justice Minister, or the weird dancing of Bailey the prison guard. Even just watching this chef from the chicken kitchen cook is delightfully distracting. Also, I don't know if that's his nose, or if he just has some chicken stuck on his face. Got your nose! And it's not just the characters themselves either. I love the perspective of this game. The way all the zones are totally flat and the way everything is laid out, coupled with the use of spotlights to highlight important elements, really reminds the audience that we are exactly that. An audience. Because in Ghost Trick, the world is a stage. There are even a few moments where characters will turn to face the camera directly, like actors in a stage production when they address Sissel. Also, I don't really mention this enough when it comes to the games I cover on this channel, but the music is really, really good. I want to mention that. The music is great. And beyond that, I really don't want to reveal much more about this game here, because one of the biggest draws of Ghost Trick is the overarching mystery. Who Sissel is, how he died, his connection with Lynn, the interweaving fates of the various characters you meet throughout the night. It's like the entire game is one big final chapter in an Ace Attorney game, And the same way I'd never want to spoil that for anyone, I figure it's best if I spoil as little of this game as possible. It's an awesome mystery that is well worth solving on your own. Sadly, Capcom just hasn't really done much with Ghost Trick Phantom Detective since it came out. Phoenix Wright and Maya have a color option referencing Sissel and Lyn in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and in Street Fighter V, the character Colleen's nostalgia costume has a color option that seems rather reminiscent of Sissel as well. But beyond that, the only real appearance any character in this game has made is in the discontinued mobile game Street Fighter Cross All Capcom, and also, like, this Capcom Unity pic from 2010 that showed Sissel as a serve bot, so, like, that's a thing that happened. Oh yeah, and in 2017, Capcom released the Capcom Heroes mode in Dead Rising 4, where Frank West can dress up as a bunch of Capcom characters and have awesome movesets referencing their respective games. And seeing him as Sissel and using a bunch of objects to kill a bunch of zombies looks pretty darn cool. But I haven't played that. Still, it's a pretty nice shout out to Ghost Trick in the modern era. In a 2013 issue of Official Nintendo Magazine, Shu Takumi gave, possibly as a joke, his simple pitch for a crossover between Ghost Trick and the Ace Attorney series, saying, "Phoenix Wright could be killed, and Sissel could prosecute his killer in court. Whatever form it might take, a crossover between these games is something I would love to see happen." Then again, the last time we had a dedicated Ace Attorney crossover game, it didn't exactly turn out for the best, so maybe Ghost Trick Cross Ace Attorney is one of those game ideas that stayed buried for good reason. Ghost Trick is, well, a tricky game to really expand upon. It works as a standalone story that tied up all of its loose ends. I feel if we ever did get some sort of sequel, it'd probably have to be with new characters telling a new story, which I'd be totally okay with if it meant we got more fascinating Ghost Trick puzzles and attempts at averting fates. This isn't a very long game, you're looking at about 8 to 10 hours, which is actually kinda cool because the plot of the game takes place from 7 PM to about 5 AM. So the length of the plot is pretty close to the amount of time it'll take you to beat it, almost like the game is being played in real time. However, I'll confess, I wouldn't say that Ghost Trick has the same level of replayability as the Ace Attorney games. I've played through every Ace Attorney game multiple times, but truth be told, including my playthrough for this video, I've only played through Ghost Trick 3 times, and those first two were both in 2011 when the game first came out. It's not a game I went back to a lot, but it also never left me. It's one of the most interesting, engaging, stylish, thematic, and memorable gaming experiences I think I've ever had. It's not even remotely surprising to me that my mind kept coming back to it when I was trying to think of my favorite games from the past decade. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is just a good game. One that I feel a lot of people missed out on back when it came out, and I'm hoping that by making this video, I've sparked a bit of interest in it amongst some of you. Now, unfortunately, at the time of making this video, physical copies of the original DS version are pretty expensive. However, the iOS port is actually free to start, and the full game can be unlocked for only $10. I'm happy to say the mobile port plays great, and is a perfectly worthwhile version that I'm more than happy to recommend for those who want to sample the game without shelling out for those eBay prices. However, now look, I'm not one of those people who thinks that everything should be ported to the Switch. In fact, here's a list of games I don't think should be on the Switch. But Ghost Trick Phantom Detective absolutely deserves a second chance on the console. It really does. Whether using the touchscreen in handheld mode or a controller in docked mode, I think this would make an absolutely amazing addition to the console. The mobile version proves without a doubt that the game works fine with a single screen, so yeah. Capcom, get on that! Bring Ghost Trick to the Switch! And I think that's as good a place as any to end the first half of my Trick and Treat special. I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful little trick, and make sure to bring your sweet tooth when I have next week's treat. See you all then, and happy Halloween! Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, be sure to click like, but if you really liked it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Extra special thanks to all my friends and loved ones over on Patreon, which you can pledge to today to see your own name in these ending credits. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care.